Let's take a look at these videos first. These videos all share a common characteristic. They utilize a special composition technique that we call gap focus. This composition technique tends to make your scenes feel much more narrative-driven. Today, I'm going to provide you with a skill. By using this skill, you can very conveniently generate high-quality gap focus prompts. You can use these prompts to generate an image, and of course, you can then use that image to generate a very beautiful video. So, the key to generating the video effectively becomes how to generate a high-quality image with that gap focus texture. The reason I wanted to create this skill is because I saw a post on Twitter from Voxcat. You should definitely check him out. He shares some unique prompts every day. In his post, he explained the principles of the gap focus composition and its specific applications very clearly. First, why do we use gap focus? It is because when the view is clearly obstructed, we actually feel it has more of a story. Your line of sight is forced through a single gap, so the subject naturally becomes a secret you need to explore. The core principle is obstruction plus an entrance plus a singular visual channel. There are some specific details in the description, but I won't go through them all right now. I've built this workflow on RunningHub, and you can access the platform through there. In the ComfyUI field, RunningHub is a fantastic online workbench because whenever new models or extensions appear, it follows up immediately. You can register for RunningHub via the invitation link in my video description to get 1,000 free credits. Additionally, simply logging into RunningHub daily gives you 100 bonus credits, so you can try out your own workflows. Next, let's look at the specific skill I wrote. For the immersive programming environment, I am using Google's AntiGravity. Regarding this tool, the specific introduction to skills and how to edit them, I gave a very detailed description in my previous video. So I won't go into too much detail here. If you have questions, go check out that video. First, let's look at the project organization. We have a project folder called My Skill, and inside that, there is an agent folder. Inside that, there is a skills folder. This is where I organize all the skills I use. Up to now, we've written two. The first is the dynamic video prompt generator we discussed previously, and the second is the gap focus skill we are talking about today. In here, I just need a skill file. This skill file is a markdown document. It acts like an instruction manual for the skill, telling the AI large language model what the skill is called, when to use it, how to use it, and what the steps are. Let's briefly look at the logic behind writing this skill. First is the name. We call it Gap Focus Storyteller. Let's look at the description. It is for generating high-quality text to image prompts, focusing specifically on the gap focus technique. It mentions a keyword here called voyeuristic feel, which I think is a great description. Next is a detailed explanation of the skill, followed by when to use it. It mentions 3 points. First, use it when you want to transform a simple snapshot into a cinematic scene with depth. Second, it applies to themes like mystery, suspense, elegance, or hidden beauty, especially suitable for film noir, ancient fantasy, or cyberpunk street photography compositions. Now, how do we use this skill? There are a few steps involved. Step 1 is defining the obstruction, or what we call the foreground, since the most important part of the gap focus technique is having an obstruction, and to make it obvious, we require the foreground to cover 40 to 60% of the frame. This ensures we achieve an effective result. Step 2 is defining the gap. We need to clarify the shape and nature of the gap. Here, we suggest some keywords, such as narrow window panes, a cracked door, gaps in dense foliage, or spaces between buildings. These all count as types of gaps. Step 3 is constructing the subject. This naturally refers to the main content placed within that narrow space. Here we have a guiding principle. We require the subject to be given a narrative action. We want it to look like it has a story and dynamic movement. Step 4 is emphasizing atmosphere and lighting. In these narrow channels, there are often special lighting effects, like the Tyndall effect. This is mainly to increase the sense of story or suspense. Below that is a prompt template, which needs to include these elements. Finally, there is a review section. You need to check if the generated prompt meets the following requirements. Gap restriction. Is it narrow enough to create tunnel vision? Subject placement, is it in the center? Blur contrast, foreground should often be blurred to focus on the subject, and narrative quality. Theoretically, after following these steps, you should get a fantastic gap focus prompt. Now, let's test it out live. First, start AntiGravity, then enter the agent manager. We'll create a space, or rather, open an existing space. The one we just created, select it, ensure we are in the current space, and start a new prompt. Next, let's choose a model. You can choose any of these, but they all have free quotas. If you are doing less complex reasoning tasks, you can choose Gemini 1.5 Flash. If you have complex coding or reasoning needs, you can choose Pro next. Let's set the mode to planning. The difference is that planning will first generate a step-by-step list for you to confirm, whereas fast will execute immediately. Actually, for generating prompts, you can choose fast, but to see the effect, let's choose planning. Then you can write your request. Take a look at my prompt. Help me generate a gap focus prompt. The theme is a ladybug carrying dewdrops crawling between two giant blades of grass. It is about to climb over a stone, just like mountain climbing. This creates a strong sense of story. Let's send this prompt. Notice here it says Analysis Skill, MD. This means it has realized I need to use a specific skill. It then generates an execution plan. We can open it to take a look. It lists the overall goal and specific execution steps. If you are unhappy with anything, you can select it, add a comment, and click Review, and it will update the plan based on your feedback. I have no objections to this plan, so I'll close it and click Accept. Now, it starts generating our prompt. Once execution is complete, notice that by using AntiGravity, you not only get a prompt, but you also get a fantastic image. This image is generated by Nano Banana Pro. You'll find the feel is really great. Through this example, you can see that a skill isn't just a high-level prompt. It is invoked by an agent. So it doesn't just talk, it does. This is a fundamental difference. You can even add comments to the image and ask it to continue. But I think this image is fine. So let's focus on the generated text prompt. We can verify it by putting this prompt into any image generation model to test. Here I am using Z-Image, specifically a specialized model. Let's run it. Notice my resolution is currently 1440 times 1920, which is the 3:4 aspect ratio we talk about. Let's look at the result. The overall effect is quite good. Let's test another one. Now my prompt changes to generate a painter with long hair draped over her shoulders, standing at the edge of two giant oil paintings, scrutinizing the art. Let's see how this turns out. I'll skip reviewing the plan and let it proceed directly. Let's look at the image generated by Nano Banana. It is very realistic though. Aesthetically, it might be lacking slightly. So let's test the prompt's effect on an open source model. To make the effect more obvious, I'll change the resolution to 1920 times 1080 or 16:9. Let's take a look. This looks much better. I've done a lot of tests using this method, just like what you are seeing now. Almost every time the generated results are very stable. You can then use any model to turn these into videos. I used Grok here, but I believe models like WAN 2.1 or even LTX Video will produce excellent results. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and try it yourself. Follow me to become someone who truly understands AI.